You've counted every calorie, tried every diet, spent hours in the gym, and still something's missing. You want more than just weight loss. You want your energy back. You want your confidence restored. You want a way of living that doesn't feel like punishment. Welcome to Master Your Metabolism, where we cut through the noise, ditch the fads, and give you a real plan to become the healthiest, strongest version of you. Hosted by our team of expert coaches with proven strategies, science-based tips, and real-life encouragement, not just to help you lose fat, but actually create that lifestyle that you love. You've tried everything. Now, let's try what actually works. This is your turning point. Let's go. Hey guys, welcome to Master Your Metabolism. I am here with Calvin, Amanda, and Whitney. And we wanted to chat today a little bit about holidays, vacations, things that come up, things that tend to throw people off, and most importantly, giving you some actual tangible things that you can implement to help you to move through this season and not wind up starting the beginning of the year 10 to 20 pounds up and regretting all the things. So, I'm going to go ahead and get started and kind of talk about the most common thing that I see with clients, because a lot of it has to do with things that we talk about all the time with all or nothing. When things are not perfectly planned out, or they have things that come up that are out of routine, it really challenges people because they can't have that little bit of moderation. They can't have that, well, I'm going to go to a party and I'm going to maybe eat my meal first. So when I go to the party, I can have a couple of little things. I had something at the party. Now I messed up. So 3 days after that, I'm just going to have leftovers and all of the things. So Amanda, I know we chat about this all the time with the all or nothing and when things like that happen. So maybe you can kind of share a little bit from your point of view and what helps some of your clients.
Yeah, absolutely. I think all or nothing is really all encompassing for the issues that people have during the holidays. The first thing that people struggle with during the holidays is that it starts at Thanksgiving and ends at Christmas. That is that is a month long period of time.
Food fest.
But we're not looking at a holiday season here. We're looking really at 2 holiday meals, 3 if you want to include New Year's. So we're not talking about something that extends from the end of November through the beginning of the year, because if we were, we would all put on 25 pounds. But if it can be all the other days, I'm going to do what I know works. I'm going to continue doing what I've been doing because essentially nothing has changed, right? I like to remind people that holidays are just a date on the calendar. So the behaviors you employ on a holiday don't necessarily need to be overly different than the behaviors you employ for the rest of the year. But that brings up the topic of moderation that Brooke talked about. Moderation is presented as this really nice middle ground, but that's not really the case for most people. I would say 5 to 10% of the population is able to employ moderation effectively. I would say the rest of the population, including myself, cannot necessarily employ it in certain circumstances, but do better in certain areas than others. So if you know that you're a sides kind of person and you know that's where you're going to go hard, structure which sides you're going to eat. For me, it's dessert. I don't care about the meal at all. I can have just some turkey with like some sweet potato, no problem. But you bring out the brownies and the cookies and all the things, that's where I'm going to have a hard time. So I know ahead of time, I need to work on regulating myself where I'm most vulnerable. That's how you employ moderation. So if there are things that you can moderate yourself with effectively, do so. If there are things that you know are difficult for you, be honest with yourself. Maybe employ an accountability buddy, a husband, a child, a mother, probably not a mother, and say, hey, if you see me going back over there, can you just like tap me on the shoulder or something? Most people are willing to do that for you. They love you. They care about you.
But be careful with them and warn them that you must be nice back when they do that for you.
Yes, you cannot bite their heads off. That is part of the deal. It's not really fair to them if they're going to be nice and you're going to attack them. So I just, thank you and you move away is a good call. I think moderation is the number one thing I would talk about employing. So being honest with yourself, knowing what you can moderate with and what you can't. And then the second piece is emotional ties. So this is a holiday where you are going to have your grandmothers and mothers and aunts, and everybody under the sun is going to make you wonderful food with love. And if you don't eat all of it, they're going to be very offended. That's not fair. So my response to that is usually, you know what? I really appreciate that you made X, Y, and Z. I'm going to have a taste, but I really don't want to screw up something I've been working really hard at. Anyone who loves you will be willing to accept that. You might get a little guilt trip coming back at you, but we have a force field for that. That's what we're here for. So those are my two pieces.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I've also
I'd
had
say
someone.
I think the holiday thing. I'll argue that the holiday starts on Halloween because I
Yeah,
saw the weight spike. I got the evidence. The holidays are amongst us, so
Feel really called out right
everybody
now.
everybody's like, "Oh, I got to get this candy out of my house." Yes, you do. Yes, you do. You got to get up. Did you look at your weight graph? So, you know, so that's the thing is like we all know as coaches that look, it's the holidays. Even if you count Halloween, what is that? Four days out of the year. So you could realistically, if you're unplanned, have 4 days out of the year that you just go, full gorilla, and it's really not going to throw you off. So is it really the days that they're actually showing up on the holiday, or is it the cookies that people are bringing to work? Is it the snacks? Is it the mental shift? Kind of like people get when they go out of town where
yes.
something switches and they're like, oh, different area code, it doesn't count here, and they have old habits where they're just like anything goes, we went out, Kim comes back 5 pounds later, and that mentality, I think a lot of people kind of had that with the holidays where they just kind of release and say, okay, well, this is my free pass. Can I just eat what I want and just do the thing? That's where I kind of see where the problem is they do kind of give in and they don't prepare for it. They don't it's the same thing every year. I mean, most people that work in an office know what's going to happen. They know it's coming, but they don't have a plan going into it. So it's the same issue every year is that they go in, they're hungry, maybe they didn't bring food or this or that, and they put themselves in this predicament. Now they're already getting the wheels going. And I think a lot of people have that kind of mentality too, that if I screwed up a little bit here, the holidays here on the weekend, we're just not going to count this week. We're just going to roll with it. So how do we combat that? What's the strategies to combat going into work and dealing with these things? Just knowing and kind of having that shift in mindset of just, okay, I need to stay in plan so that, I can make actual progress, which we have seen several times with quite a few people that they have some of their best weight drops during the holidays. Competition wise, the last competition of the year is 5 days before Christmas. And that is literally in South Florida, the biggest attending show there is. It's usually double the amount of competitors. And so what are they doing differently, than the average person? And what I see with that is that they have a goal, to hit. And so they have that day to work towards. So that keeps them adherent. And I think that's kind of one thing that I think that most people are missing through the holidays is they kind of drop the goal a little bit and say, well, I'll start fresh in the new year. But do they? And so is it maybe just a matter of having a goal set to the end of the year that they keep on, on point with it and give themselves a little bit of, grace for those days that they're actually at their events? What strategies do you guys think is a good strategy for that?
Yeah, I think also it's like understanding that the goals have to be different. Like you can't have I'm going to be 100% on point when I know all this stuff is coming up, but having a goal of, listen, I'm going to kind of slow things down. And like you said, I'm going to use this one day, this one day. But if you look at the whole month overall, if you went to the gym once versus you or twice, versus if you've gone to the gym every single day, it's kind of the same thing. If you are consistent through the whole time and have 1 or 4 days off out of the 60, what you're really looking at, and really understanding that I don't totally abandon my goals, but I just have to modify things and change things a little bit and make it a little bit easier to be successful.
I think that the one thing I would amend to that is you do need to stay 100% to your goals. What changes is the grace you allow yourself based on circumstance. So the focus on the goal doesn't change. It's the ability to allow yourself to engage, to loosen up a little bit. We're not going to take that 100% off the goal, because if you come away from the goal, it's going to be a million times harder to get back on the goal. So instead of looking at it as like, I'm going to adapt my goals for the holiday season. I'm going to keep my goals the same, but I might adapt my focus and change. So you're changing little things. Like instead of being 100% adherent to, you're still 100% adherent to the goal, but instead of being 100% adherent to a meal plan, maybe now you're just tracking macros. Or maybe you're just making sure that you're getting all your protein. But the goal doesn't move. The goal has to stay where it is, and it stays where it is until it's been reached. Otherwise, you will just continuously fall off and get back on.
Yeah. And I think another important thing to kind of help keep on track and help keep your goals in mind is to focus on the things that you can control and control those and be prepared and do the things, the habits that you've built into your daily life, because there's going to be a lot of change up between like kids being out of school. People take off long periods of time from work during the holidays. So there's a lot of change in your routine. A lot of times there's travel involved or family coming to visit. And so I think that's where those like 2 to 4 days turn into month to 2 month like extravaganzas. But I think keeping those kind of non-negotiables that you build into your daily routine make all the world a difference, because even if you sort of change your approach towards your goals, if you still hold on to, I'm going to go to the gym every day, I'm going to meal prep so that I have the food in the fridge so that I'm not tempted to just go for whatever leftovers are there, you're prepared to handle those situations. Or if I'm going to maybe focus more on meal prepping, if I am going to work and I'm going into the office and I know there's going to be treats and extra food there, that way I don't go in hungry. So maybe instead of eating 10 Christmas cookies, maybe I grab one here and there, and you don't have to feel quite as bad about it. And you're not going to get that far off of track because, kind of like Brooke said, if you're mostly on plan throughout the holidays, a little bit of going off and enjoying yourself isn't going to really derail you. It's what happens when you just say, oh, screw it. Like, I already messed up, so we'll start again Monday. But each of the holidays this year is on a Thursday. So that's 4 out of 7 days for 3 weeks
Yep.
in a row.
Yep.
That's where the snowball effect kind of comes in, and I think especially too with kids,
Kids being off. That's true.
finding some of that balance too, to kind of show them like you want to engage in some of those kind of fun holiday things, and unfortunately some of them like making cookies, or some of that does revolve around food, but it's like maybe we make the cookies to take to an event, or make cookies that I'm not necessarily gonna like gorge myself on, because I'm like Amanda, I'm a dessert person, so I have to be cautious about what we make, but they love to bake. So when I can sit down, or even making a healthier version of some of your like favorite Christmas foods that you can do together, you know, things like that I think go a long way, especially when you're kind of juggling all these extra things coming at you during this season.
I think
Yeah.
with kids, there's kind of incentive that we can do this just with adults too. It doesn't have to be with children, but especially with children, let's teach them about the holidays and what the holidays are for, the togetherness, or if you're religious and you celebrate, you go to mass or whatever you do. I think the problem is there's such a heavy association with food. And food is celebratory. There's no culture on the planet that doesn't use food to celebrate. But if the only focus is on the food and not on other things, then it's going to be even harder for you to make sure that you don't engage. Whereas, if the kids want to make cookies, but you want to teach them about, giving, maybe bring some to like a food kitchen or something like that, then you have something that you can do and you can use it as a teachable moment. So it's about remembering what the holidays are about, because food is just a component of the holidays. Even like Thanksgiving, not a religious holiday, but it's really about togetherness and being grateful for what we have, not for stuffing our faces. But I think society has really kind of honed in on the stuffing faces part. And that's the association that a lot of people have. So kind of turning that association a little bit helps.
Yeah. Another thing too that I think most people really don't consider on this is actually what the types of foods that they're eating and how it actually responds in their body. Because I think we would agree that the majority of the foods that you're going to see and during the holidays is going to be fats and it's going to be carbs, probably more predominantly carbs than anything. And so I would say on average, probably protein drops, they eat less, and now they're increasing the carbs more, and then also having a lot of times where they're snacking on foods that are just carbs, and probably some fats too. So a lot of people don't realize that when you don't pair that with the protein and have the protein first, that you get a really big insulin spike when you have that carb just by itself. Like that's where the most damage is, and that's what gives carbs a bad name. You should never really eat a carb by itself. Fruit sometimes is okay, but in most cases, especially cookies and things like that, you're going to get a really high insulin spike. You're going to release a lot of blood sugars into your system, and you can push yourself into insulin resistance very fast within that couple months of those holidays, which metabolically is not what you want to happen. And I think this is probably the thing, because I think what a lot of people do is through the holidays is they kind of stop eating as much during the week and almost like starve themselves in a sense. And then they go in. But now you think about it, the protein's coming low too, which is the opposite of what you want to happen in this scenario. And actually, you want to keep food up to keep your metabolism going. But they'll bring that down, then metabolism starts to slow down and they blast it, when they go into the weekend with these holidays and all the sugar and everything. So now that sugar is just shooting into the system. Now they have high blood sugars at the end of the year. So now it's not just as easy to lose the weight, because now they have to get those blood sugars down. That's why a lot of people see a delay in the weight drop coming out of the holidays, because you have to burn through all that excess blood sugar before you even get to the fat. So keeping that in mind, in my opinion, one of the best things you can do is just remember to pair a protein, with it, some form of a protein. And probably before you even go to the holiday party, I would have a protein shake right before you even go in, just powdered protein shake, just have it. That'll help kind of keep you a little bit satiated, but also put some protein in your system to slow down the digestive process. So then when you do have the carbs, you're not getting those big insulin spikes, so but that's something you want to keep in mind when you're snacking. It's the snacking that messes up guts, and the snacking that causes insulin resistance. And the issues that they have to deal with later, and they have no idea how it happened. That's why you have a tendency to put on belly fat quicker in the holidays. Santa looks that way for a reason. We know that.
It's definitely an idea to, pair the protein and, lots of people are like not wanting to go ahead and like grab some chicken. And that's why the protein shake is a great idea. It's something quick that you can have on the way. It's something you can take with you if you're out and about. Protein bar is another option that you can kind of have with you, and try to like move. You see people after Thanksgiving, like, and you're sitting there like laying on the couch, like get up, go with your family, like go for a walk outside. Usually the weather's really nice, at least here in Florida. It's probably not ice cold, but you can walk outside and just move your body after you're eating. Have that time with your family, have the things that you can be doing together. Again, to help with that same thing that Calvin's talking about.
A few rules that I usually give out on our support group before the holidays, but I feel like some of them kind of piggyback on what Calvin is saying. So, rule number one is you get one plate. You get one plate and you get to fill it up once. So, if you want to go hard on something, you still only get one plate. So, what I advise people to do is you want to look at your plate like a pie chart, about a third, a third, and a third, protein, fat, and carb. Try to get as close as possible. Obviously, there's going to be a lot more fats than we're used to, things like that. But the single plate is really important, because there is no reason for a second helping. And that comes from a girl who used to go back for like fifths and sixths. At that point, we're just compulsively eating. You're not hungry, you're enjoying the taste, but it's not even so much that, it's an excuse to engage in that type of behavior. So when I say one plate, that does not mean stuff the plate as full as humanly possible. There should be some white between the items. So between the sweet potatoes and the turkey, you should be able to see some of your plate. For me, that's a helpful guide, because if you're not going in from the perspective of tracking, which is what we're used to doing on a day-to-day basis, but you're going to take it easy on Thanksgiving, well, at least have some guideline around the quantity of your food. And that also brings me to portion control. You want to look at this as a tasting event. You should not be eating large portions of anything. Instead, you should be having a few bites of everything that you want. That will allow you to feel satiated, because you'll get to experience everything without the consequence of being ridiculously full. And then also, but this is Brooke's favorite, but I always do it, to limit yourself on those holidays. There is nothing more restrictive than a pair of well-fitting jeans. Wear them.
Yep.
Do not go to your holiday event
pants.
Do not wear your stretchy pants. Your stretchy pants are going to ensure that you eat way more than you should. Your jeans fit you when you put them on. So any damage you do, you will feel to a certain point where you're going to be in physical pain if you keep eating. For someone like me, I need that reminder. So I'm always sure that if I go to a place where I know there's like a lot of food, I will make sure I wear my tightest jeans because I know I don't have a ton of wiggle room there and I'm going to be really uncomfortable. And the best way to ensure behavioral change is for there to be a positive or negative reinforcement. Well, your jeans getting so tight that they cut off your circulation is going to positively reinforce the fact that you don't want to eat all the food. So those are my three. But I think Calvin's point with the protein and the shake beforehand is actually really important. What I actually do is I will front load my whole day with protein before I go maybe do a dinner type event to make sure that I'm at least kind of close to my protein goal by the time I go, because I know that none of the things I'm going to eat there, minus some turkey, are going to give me any real form of protein. And that also helps keep you full.
Yeah, and it's almost impossible to overeat protein. Most likely, if you overeat protein, you'll drop weight. That's typically what happens because your body burns 30% more calories just processing it. So it's very, very difficult to do that. So in this case, you're better off overeating protein in those days to keep yourself more satiated and on point with things. So it does help. And even like supplementation, we don't really push a lot of supplements. We like to do most things through food. But in this case, during the holidays, there is a supplement that I would recommend. It's a natural supplement called GDAs. It's glucose disposal agents. And we get ours from Fat Muscle, just really like their products. And the one that we use, it's just 2 capsules, and you take it before your meals that are going to be typically higher carb meals. And you just have it right before. And what it does, it helps to control that insulin spike and it keeps it lower. So this makes a very big difference. Very big difference. We use it in prep for our competitors and people in fat loss phases, but in a situation like this where carbs are going to be more abundant through the holidays, that's just a great little hack to have to bring with you when you go to these things. And I would probably argue digestive enzymes also, because you're probably going to be eating some foods that you haven't had in a while and you might not have the enzymes for that, which can cause some digestive issues. So, but I would probably say those two supplements would be extremely helpful for you to help maintain, the weight through the holidays.
And making sure you drink lots of water
Yeah.
because water also is going to give you that feeling of fullness. So you won't eat as much of the food. So that's usually helpful also. Again, just all, and like what Amanda was saying about like harm reduction and what could be really bad, just finding ways to kind of soften the blow, so to speak. So how she was saying about front loading protein, like in the morning, think about, and so for people that don't know what those proteins are, like eggs, egg whites, like for a breakfast meal, using things like cottage cheese, using things like Greek yogurt, tofu, any type of fish, chicken, any animal proteins like lean meats, turkey, ground turkey, pork tenderloin are all things that you could be having. And you have that in the beginning of your day with some kind of veggies or fruits and things like that. So that way, when all the other things come in later, you're feeling kind of satiated going into it. You've had your protein sources. So now when you start doing the others and the combination of that with the GDAs, with drinking water and the tight jeans, you should be in a place that you feel a little bit more successful where things could have gone terribly wrong. Because it's also the point that you don't want to beat yourself up if things do go awry. If your intention was to make these small little changes, always looking at the situation when it's over and saying, well, you know what? I did A, B, and C to make it a little bit better. This is something that I probably should have, this other thing over here I need to work on. So when the next holiday is coming up, now I've learned this is what I did the first time. So now I can change a behavior to do it. Because that's part of it also, is just understanding that this is a journey, this is a learning process. And when things go crappy, not feeling shame about it and then saying, forget it, I'm just going to go and do all the things because I failed, but really saying, why did this happen? What can I do to change it? And how can I make it better for the future? Because those little changes and little moments that you have that you learn from, that's what is going to help you to be successful long term.
And I'd add something too, and this is just kind of depending on where you are with your goals, but I just thought of it because like I had both of my kids like right I mean, Ezekiel's a little bit further away, but like before the holidays. And so losing the fat from the pregnancy was kind of an important thing to me. Like it was really forefront on my mind at the time. You can bring your own food.
Yes, you can.
And I've done that. And you can bring similar foods, you know, like I've brought my own sweet potatoes that I baked in the oven so that I know they're not loaded with butter and sugar and, you know, marshmallows and all that stuff. Brought my own vegetables, you know, and maybe stick with I'll eat maybe the turkey that's there because that's usually a little bit safer. I mean, sometimes people deep fry or cook it in
Yeah.
butter and stuff, but you know, you can do certain things to make sure.
Really?
Yeah, yeah, my husband actually deep fries turkeys. They're good, but yeah, it's a whole thing.
But it is, but it's a great point that, even if you're not bringing like your own little container of chicken and broccoli, like I'm talking, and like
Yeah,
what you said, bringing sides
similar. Yep.
that are similar to what they're having, or I'll bring like an appetizer, like a shrimp cocktail. So
Yeah.
it's basically a crap load of protein that I know I can kind of snack on as an appetizer beforehand. The vegetable tray. I've made the vegetable like we went to a holiday party, a Christmas party, and I got one of those like styrofoam like cones and I put like a bunch of, yes, I was super, super mom mode. And made a little like Christmas tree out of these like veggies. And it was really cool. And the kids actually loved it. They made it, so they ate it. I had a little like thing of a dressing, not a dressing, but a dip that I made with Greek yogurt and a ranch seasoning. So you take it off and you just had a little ranch dip and some veggies. So it's things that I know I can eat, but those are the things that I kind of had a little bit more of. And then if I wanted to enjoy a couple of tastes of some of the other things that people brought, okay, great. So it is a different option for people.
I think
Yeah.
that people around the holidays, well, people in general, we look for excuses. Our brain tells us this is not a good choice. And then the emotional side of your brain will say, but how can we make this work for us? And that's what an excuse is. So the excuse of, oh, I'm going to a party, I can't stay on plan. Well, that's ridiculous. You're choosing not to stay on plan. And if you're going to choose not to stay on plan, then you own your choice. But by saying I can't, there's always something you can do to mitigate the harm. Speaking of mitigating harm, this is one of my pet peeves around the holidays is that on Thanksgiving Day, when I go to the gym for my normal workout, there are 800 bajillion people there. And
Approximately.
I love it when the gym has people because I love when people are exercising, doing things that are good for themselves. However, I don't like the mindset, which is I'm going to exercise, which is going to completely negate all of the terrible choices I'm about to make this evening. Not what happens, not how the body works. So again, we come up with these. I'm sorry if that's harsh, but I mean, I feel like I'm entitled to say it,
Yeah.
morbid obesity was on this too. I get it. Like, I understand. I came from that world. But you cannot out exercise a bad diet. And that's something that we talk about on a regular basis. You certainly can't do it on a holiday. I'm sure Calvin could talk more about the physiology behind it. But the fact of the matter is, you're never going to burn enough calories if you're thinking that the calories you burn are going to cancel out the amount you're going to eat unregulated. It's just not going to happen.
Well,
Yeah.
and because like also in the grand scheme of things, like the calories you burn with one workout are so minimal compared to even the calories you're burning when you sit on the couch and watch Netflix all day. So, when you go to the gym on a consistent basis and you build muscle over time, that's where that helps with your metabolism, your lean muscle, all of that. But if you go one day, maybe you get like 300 calories, but
You're going to
you're
eat
gonna
1,000. So
Or a billion.
yeah, like that's one side.
It's yeah, it's a nudge and it helps, but it's not like Amanda said, it's not going to fix that problem. Like even to put it in perspective, like one thing that you should do just normally, but definitely especially during the holidays, is set a step count for the day. If you're normally doing 8,000 steps, try to make it 10,000. That can help kind of regulate things because one walking is good for digestion, can lower cortisol too, but also it's burning some extra calories. But let's be real here for a second. Kind of circling back around to what Amanda said. So about 2,000 steps, which is about a mile, that burns about 90 calories. Okay. So I know we went to go visit my son last night. Actually, two of our sons got an apartment together. And there was these drinks, these margarita drinks. What were they called, Brooke? They were
Cutwater.
cut water or something, right? So one of those drinks was 300 calories. One,
Ooh,
right? Yeah, just one. So that would equal 3.5 miles of walking to counter for that one drink. And most people that are going to these holiday parties are probably drinking the sugary drinks, got the candy cane in it, and all this stuff. How many calories do you think's in that? Because this was not like that. So thinking in terms of that, how many miles do you have to walk to burn off that one single thing? Now you have two. God, all right. So that puts it in perspective that you're not going to beat the food when you go to the gym. The food's always going to be the main thing when it comes to weight loss and muscle gain as well. But it's always going to be the first. Cardio is just a tool to help kind of speed it up. But you can do cardio every day, and it's like what Brooke was saying. You might, or Amanda too. You may burn 200 calories in that cardio session. But keeping in mind that that one drink was 300 calories, right? And that's just a drink. That's not even touching the food. At that point. So you just want to be mindful of that, how this is really kind of adding up over time. It's pretty easy to get about 3,000 calories in one of those parties if you're not watching what you're doing, because the high fats, those very high calorie dense foods with the high fats is 9 calories per gram. That's double what carbs and protein is. Then you throw those carbs on top of it, and it's just something to be mindful of. You're not going to wake up the next day and run a half marathon and fix everything. What you will do is increase that appetite again when you do that and end up eating more food
and that is the
anyway.
thing. I see a lot of people doing that like turkey trot where they have that morning run, right? Isn't that, Whitney? You're a runner, you know.
Yeah.
They have those like turkey trots in the morning where you're going to go and run. Running is going to make you so freaking hungry. And then you're going to a place that has a crap ton of food. It is like, it just, it doesn't make sense to me. And what Calvin was saying, and we talked about this on another podcast with alcohol, it's not even just the alcohol. You have more than two drinks, you are not burning any type of calories, any type of fat for at least like 2 or 3 days while your body's getting rid of that toxin. You're not sleeping well, so you're going to have more cravings. It's like a culmination, and that's where it goes awry. So I tell people, like, the drinks, dude, like, have an understanding with yourself of saying, okay, I'm going to enjoy like one cocktail. If you're going to enjoy multiple, just know you are setting yourself up that your body is coming out of fat burning mode and you are literally going to be in fat storage mode for not just that meal that you ate, but the next couple of days. So all those leftovers, this is where it kind of turns into that storm.
And having the water in between each drink, I mean, that's so simple, but it works so well.
Yep.
So if you can just do that, that will cut the damage down to half for sure.
The thing about, we have two bad guys here. We have the food and we have the alcohol. And alcohol is probably even more of a concern on holidays because guess what? Here's my therapist's reality for you. You're spending a lot of time with your family, and that causes a lot of anxiety. Maybe your mom is really hard on you. Maybe your dad and your mom don't talk anymore. Whatever the situation is, people use alcohol as that social lubricant and to have an altered state of consciousness. And sometimes when we spend lots of time with our family, we need an altered state of consciousness. So you're going to have to kind of pick and choose. And then you're also going to have to follow some sort of harm reduction model. So if you're going to drink, skip the cocktails, do shots. Like, I'm not even, or just mix with water, because the extra stuff you're putting in your beverage to make your cocktail a cocktail is probably going to get you faster than even the alcohol will, because a lot of those like sour mixes and sugary syrups and things like that, the alternative for that is, if you can obviously find a mocktail that does not have alcohol in it that will give you something you can have in your hand, but you're obviously not getting any sort of buzz. There's also a lot out there right now, drinks with THC and CBD. You can get them at your local liquor store. For most people, that gives like a light little buzz. And they don't have the same type of calories. But I think it's important to remember that the alcohol can do just as much, if not more damage than the food. In addition to the fact that once you're drunk, you're going to have no willpower over the food. So you got to remember, when you get into that altered state of consciousness, you're kind of relinquishing some of your self control as well. So you have to be kind of careful with that. It's hard to have self control when you're in a place that's filled with temptation. And that's kind of what a holiday party is to someone who struggles with food addiction.
Yeah. And the last part is definitely, I think of the family members that are going to say things, or the friends that are say, oh, can you just have one? Come on, it's the holidays and things like that. Understanding, always, kind of share with people. It used to bother me, but now it's to the point that I've been doing it so long. It's, listen, you don't have to like button my pants tomorrow. I do. I'm the one that has to wake up tomorrow with the choices that I made. And I've done this long enough that I don't want to go back to where I was, because I'm already here. But in the beginning, it was hard. And you do like feel bad, and people say things and it's like, all right. But always remember, like, it has nothing to do with you. When they're saying things to me, like, I know it's because they either feel guilty what they're doing, and I'm kind of like triggering how Amanda tells me that I'm triggering them of something that they can't do or that they wish they could do, things like that. That, you know what, you do you, I'm going to do me. And, I know why I'm doing it. Right. And like Amanda said, it's, if you're really honest with people and saying, listen, I've been working really hard at this. If you said you were fasting because you had, like a holiday, nobody would say anything. If you said to them, listen, I can't do that, I was having medical issues and I need to like really fix my health, they're not going to say anything back. It's a judgment thing. So sometimes it's just, hey, listen, my health is going in a direction that I need to really work on things. So that's why I'm choosing to do this. Whatever you need to do. So you don't feel bad about making your choices, because at the end of the day, when the holidays are over and you feel really confident with what you did and how you navigated through, like, that's an amazing feeling. And that's that feeling that will start that momentum, that you will really get to a place that you feel confident and comfortable with your decisions.
And I think another thing, especially along those lines, is like remembering that misery loves company. And so people who are already feeling bad about their choices are going to feel even worse if you're making the right choices, And I've had comments for years from, whether it's holiday parties or the choices like, that's so boring. Like, why are you getting that? Or, ew, that looks funny or smells funny. And it's like, no one's asking you to eat it, you know? I I would offer you a bite, but obviously we know how you feel now. So you don't have to, but I also don't have to eat what you're eating, and I have my reasons. You have yours, so you know
Respect it.
exactly.
And you don't need to justify your reasons and your why to anybody. If you want to share and be like, look, I'm doing this because I'm trying to get a handle on my health or whatever, feel free to share that, because there's nothing to be ashamed there. Obviously, that's what I do when people ask me questions, which happens all the time. But if someone's coming at you about anything, you're not hurting anybody. You're fine. Keep eating your broccoli and ignore them, because they're just looking to poke at something. Because, like Brooke mentioned, you poked at their wound. So now they're going to poke you back, because that's how humans behave. And it's really a reflection of their insecurities. You just triggered their insecurity. So what you're doing has no effect on them in reality. But because they're already insecure about it, they felt like you were coming at them with your healthy food and your no alcohol, when in actuality, you weren't doing anything but taking care of yourself. So people will say things. If you're going to go to a holiday party and maybe bring your own food or make healthy choices, you will get comments. It's inevitable. But you need to go in there with like a force field of why you're doing this in the first place. So for me, for a long time, I was doing all of this because I hated my body. Now I do it because I love my body, and I don't want to hurt my body by putting things into it that it doesn't like. So that's my reason. If you don't like it, that's fine, but I'm going to sit over here quietly and eat my pre-made food.
Yeah, you're definitely going to get comments. That'll never go away, no matter how long. But just a simple answer is say, I just prefer this. I just would rather eat this. I just don't like the way that I feel when I have that. Just a simple answer. They don't need to know the whole deal.
You
But
could
don't do it.
also tell people that you're dying and you have to eat this, and then they'll feel terrible about saying something.
Only problem is it's your family, so they like kind of know some of them
Yes.
at least.
And it is. And this is part of the reason, like every year at this time, so the last month, like right after Thanksgiving, we always have our holiday challenge. And it is where we help people, again, not with telling them all of the things, but teaching them how to navigate through this time, teaching them how to get some habits in place, some strategies that they can use, some different activities, different mindset, things like that to be able to support them during that time so that they can feel a little bit more confident moving through this time. And I definitely hope that this podcast gave people at least a little taste of it so they can have some understanding going into this time, feel more confident. So when it comes to the beginning of the year, you're in a better place. You feel like you are accomplished, you succeeded, and you are motivated and have some momentum going so that you can start the new year ahead and not 10 to 20 pounds up. So
It feels really good when you come out ahead and January hits and you're like, oh my God, I actually lost weight. I'm not a statistic on this one. And that, if you think about it for a second, that is very motivating when you hit the new year to take off running. But it's very discouraging when you're 10 pounds up, and that your starting point is just to get the weight back off. So think about that when you go into it, is how you're going to feel when you're going into that new year. And that'll let you know if you're serious about what you're doing, and if it's really important to you.
well, thank you guys so much for joining us. This was really helpful. I hope a lot of people get value. And if you guys found value from this or just had some ideas, comments, please put them below. And if you wouldn't mind sharing a review, we would really appreciate it. And thank you so much. Till next time. Ciao, guys.
Bye-bye.
Thanks for tuning in to Master Your Metabolism. If you found value in today's episode, it would mean the world to us if you'd hit subscribe and share this episode with someone who could use a little guidance in their health journey. Ready to take the next step? Head over to www.mastersfitnesscoaching.com and you can book a free call right from the site so we can chat about your goals and how we can help support you. Don't forget to join our Facebook group where we're sharing coaching tips, support, and tricks to help keep you on track and continue making progress. You don't have to do this alone. We're here to walk with you every step of the way. Until next time, stay consistent, stay kind to yourself, and keep mastering your metabolism. Let's do this together.